All right. Well, we're gonna get it started here. I'm gonna introduce my co-host with over 4 decades in the game. I love it. We're back. An assistant for 2 national championship teams, a dynamic assistant coach, and a successful head coach, leading UC Irvine to their only NCAA tournament appearance in 1995. She coached USA basketball, professional basketball with the Sparks, and worked in administration at UCLA as assistant athletic director. She served as secretariat for competition of the women's basketball for the '84 Olympics. And my favorite, technical advisor and consultant for the classic film Love and Basketball. Please welcome our resident legend and snack and music expert, Colleen Matsuhara.
Thank you, Matthew. And I want to welcome everyone who's new and those who have always been with us. It's nice to see everyone back on the Zoom. I know that people have been asking about the Growth Mindset Zoom, but summer gets busy for everyone. And so I'm just happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing Simon speak this evening. You're our first Zoom, Simon, since June. I think June 8th was our last
Wow.
Growth Mindset. So the name of this Zoom is a Growth Mindset I just want to review for you. I have to review it too myself. I had to get back into my rhythm of running my mouth. So excuse me if I start to babble a little, but so growth mindset is the belief that intelligence can be developed, that your brain is like a muscle that can be trained. It leads to a desire to improve by embracing challenges, not avoiding them. You start to enjoy success when you approach your challenges with a growth mindset, not just relying on our abilities and talents. Okay, so I found two quotes today that I just want to share. I haven't talked about this before, but great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. So you may run into peaks and valleys, obstacles, but if you persevere, you will overcome that and become more successful. The next quote is, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." So again, that refers to your ability to be resilient, be persistent in pursuing your goals, your aspirations, overcoming, solving your problems. That's the growth mindset, as opposed to fixed mindset, where people think it's inherited and it's just going to happen, that they can get by in today's world with just their talents. Okay, so hopefully all of you are going to embrace and utilize growth mindset, especially in your coaching. Okay, so next, I always give a few little snack tips. So and those of you who don't know me, I am not crazy. I'm a big snacker, and I like to just pass along my tips. So I have some new ones. It's a little unusual for me to be more like on the healthier side. But my first tip is, this is Trader Joe's crunchy chili onion. And one of the associates told me about it, and it comes in a jar. And what it is, it's garlic in olive oil with dried red peppers. And it's pretty potent. Okay, so I feel like I have a cooking show right now, but I've already scooped out some in this little dish here, and I hope you can see it, but it's pretty thick. Okay, so what they recommend you do is you could drizzle it on pizza. So of course I love pizza. So if you don't see me on the screen a while, it's because this is already heated up, drizzled with this chili garlic onion. And then my other snack, well, it's not a snack, it's healthy. It's called Donley Farms Veggie Bites, organic veggie bites. Put them in the microwave. There's veggies and sunflower seed blend, and they look like this after you've nuked them. They're just like little nuggets. And so I dip them in this chili onion mix, and my mouth is on fire, but it is so delicious. Okay. And then my other snack, I have 3 tonight because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to eliminate. So this is R.W. Garcia organic sweet potato crackers. Oops, can you see it? And they look like this. They're just little quarter-sized chips. They just jump into your mouth when you're watching TV. You just can't help it. They just jump up there, and then again, you could dip them in the chili onion dip. So that's my snack tips for today. Now my music tips. I had mentioned to Ebony, we were talking earlier today, that my music tips, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be sort of like a little hybrid today. And the reason that is I just have to share with all of you, I'm pretty excited, but this just dropped. This is the remastering of the film Love and Basketball. And it came out 2 Mondays ago. And what they did is the film was 20 years old. This company called the Criterion Collection goes and reissues classic films. So they remastered the colors in the film. They remastered the soundtrack. And I got a copy because, believe it or not, I'm in this. They interviewed me, so my name is on the back cover. I only have a few snippets of answers, and after I watched myself on the DVD, I go, ew. And I told the producer, I said, if you ever have to interview me again, you have to hire a makeup artist because I look terrible. So she was laughing about that. But that is one of my music selections then, just in commemoration. Oh, and one last thing. I don't know if Jason Reed's on this Zoom yet, but I met him. He's a film producer. Steve knows him in Chicago. And I happened to tell him that, I was getting this interview this last spring. And he said, Colleen, I said, it's some company in New York called the Criterion Collection. He says, do you know anything about them? I said, no, I just see the lady's name at the end of her email. He said, you need to look them up. I said, why? I said, are they legit? I mean, who knows where, my interview could have gone. He said, in layman's terms, he said, the Criterion Collection, if someone's film is in the Criterion Collection, he said, it's probably considered to be the Hall of Fame for DVDs. I go, oh, wow. And he said they have like the largest online or DVD distribution. So anyway, I was pretty excited about that. So that being said, my music is the soundtrack from Love and Basketball. And so I'm going to play you, because then I'll explain my other 2 selections. Okay, so just bear with me and I'm going to play it for you. Okay, so those are my music selections. So let me get, normally I'm going to vary because this is a resumption of our growth mindset. But I felt like today, even though I normally give little tidbits about past women's basketball history, today I want to just mention two facts in that this past summer in Tokyo, the USA Olympic team, both the men and the women, won the gold medal. For the women, it was a 7th straight gold medal at an Olympiad. They also won the 3-on-3 gold medal. So kudos to the USA team. And just this past weekend, the Chicago Sky won their first ever WNBA championship in the 25th year of the WNBA. So congrats to them, and congrats to Kalia Copper. And I'll be quite honest, I really never heard of her when she played at Rutgers. So during the playoffs, she had a great run, and I'm thinking, who is this person? But they couldn't stop her. I felt like she was the X factor in all the playoff games. So that's more or less a current women's basketball history. But today, many of you who have also always joined us on the growth mindset have transitioned to new jobs, new cities, new schools. So I just want to give shout outs to you. First of all, in our last growth mindset meeting, we had Steve Yang, who went from Georgetown Doble to McNeese as an assistant coach. We have Helen Tao, who went from Doble at Princeton, who's now an assistant coach at Colgate University. We have Tony Nakashima, who was an assistant at North State in South Dakota. He now is the head coach at Walla Walla University. Fred Applin, who was our last speaker, had been the head coach at Charleston Southern. He now is the associate head coach at North Carolina Central. And that was our last Zoom. But for today, I want to give a shout out to Matthew Smith, my co-host, the founder of Growth Mindset. Matthew is now the video coordinator at Washington State Women's Basketball. Go Cougs. He went there from UCLA as a UCLA intern. And so now he's enjoying life in the Palouse. The next person I want to mention who has joined us quite a bit is Devontae Brewer and Olivia Liu. Both of those individuals, Devontae was the head coach at University of the Southwest. Hey, Fred, I just mentioned your name. I hope you heard me. And now he's an assistant along with Olivia Liu, who was a graduate assistant at Gonzaga. Both of them are now assistant coaches to Danelle Bishop, who's a longtime participant in our growth mindset. And we have just joining Shannon Lum. Welcome, Shannon. Shannon, about a year ago, was the video coordinator at Cal Women's Basketball. And then over the spring, she went to the University of Nebraska to be a recruiting coordinator for the men's basketball program. And to show you how a person is able to climb the ladder, Shannon, you didn't just climb the ladder, you leapfrog all those rungs, because now Shannon then in end of August or so got a job as the special assistant to the head coach for the Dallas Mavericks. So she now is Jason Kidd's right-hand woman. So that's exciting. And Shannon, it's just, I'm sure that you're going to be speaking soon, but thanks for joining us because I know you're in preseason games. Then we have Asami Morita, who had worked tonight, but she was an assistant at Robert Morris, who has since moved across the country, assistant coach now at University of Reno. Tyler Clark, who, according to Matthew, he just got married this weekend, so he is on his honeymoon, but congrats, Tyler. He now is the double at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Hernando Planels was the head coach at William Jessup. And this summer he moved and now is an assistant at University of Illinois Fighting Illini. And Chris Carr was an assistant coach at Kansas State women's basketball and now is a men's assistant coach at Drury University. And Coach Applin, since you just joined us, I did mention you among the first names of those who have moved on. He's now the associate head coach at North Carolina Central. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand for all of you. Give yourselves a hand, a round of applause for your new positions. I know it's an exciting season for you and best of luck. And whew, I'm out of breath. I mean, I started writing down everyone who maybe there's another person, but this person asked me not to announce it yet. It hasn't been made official, but so the next one I will tell you about where this person has now landed. Okay, so whew, that's a women's basketball history, but I felt like all of you deserved your kudos and best wishes for a great season.
Thank you, Colleen, and also Martin Pizanin, who's up there.
Oh, I didn't see Martin.
Martin jumped on. He's now the Dobo at Loyola Marymount University with Erica Hughes' staff. He was the video coordinator last year with Washington Huskies and worked with me 2 years ago with UCLA. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well.
Sorry, Martin, I didn't know he was on.
Yeah, his past attendance on the growth mindset is a little bit spotty, but we're gonna let that go. He's a busy guy, but anyways, thank you, Colleen. I'm so excited to have this back going, and it's like you don't really remember you don't really remember how much you love something, and until you're doing it again, and it's just like, man, I just miss this so much, seeing people and catching up, and man, so I'm just glad, Colleen. Thanks for continuing to ask me about it, and to and I'm just so thankful and happy that we're able to share this again tonight, and we've got a wonderful speaker. I mean, it's just every single time I'm just amazed at the speakers that we get. So without further ado, I want to get this going. I know it's super late for our presenter, Simon Gerzberg, who is, as you meet people in this game of basketball, you'll meet some people that are like crazy geniuses that have this wild points of view. And then you'll meet some people that are super entrepreneurial that can just take an idea and run with it and build a business. And this Simon embodies kind of both of that. He's got a really great analytical mind, and he's really pushing the envelope with the technology and the ideas that we've kind of historically thought about with shot selection and shot quality. And he's really turned it into a wonderful business. Inside of a year and a half, he's got, I think you're over 30 programs or more now. And you're making inroads in the women's game, and you're just doing such a great job. We had a Zoom with Washington State with you the other day, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight, and to really show us what you've been working on, and open our eyes up to what we can do with shot quality. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Simon, I have just one question before you start. Is this a program that you developed?
Yes.
This is your invention. This is your baby.
It is my baby,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
I don't know if this gonna play or not.
Before I actually get into like the background of the product and everything, I just want to give a little background on myself. So originally, I'm supposed to be a senior at Colgate University this semester, and I decided to take the semester off to go full-time on shot quality. The original idea actually originated from somebody that Matt told me was a speaker here at this meeting, Dave Klatsky. So my sophomore year, 2 years ago.
It might be us.
So my sophomore year, 2 years ago, Dave had me basically behind the bench grade the quality of shots. So while the game was going on, while my friends were playing basketball, I had a clipboard behind the bench basically writing out, that's a 35% shot. That's a 62% shot. Oh, Dave just came on. Let's go. Coach Klatsky, I'm giving the background of like how it all started right now.
Awesome. Just in time.
So basically I was behind the bench grading the quality of shots, and it became just such a monotonous, tedious process during December break. Had some free time, and I found a way to automate it the first time in Excel. I remember bringing it to the office and showing Dave and going through it with him, and he was just blown away by how the numbers precisely matched up with his calculation. And from that point, because I was able to automate it for the Colgate team, I knew it was possible to do it for all of college basketball with the data set I had access to. And then from there, now I've just run with it, and we just recently signed up our 50th team. So after that background, I'm going to go into the website. I'll share my screen right now.
And I will just make a quick mention that Coach Klatsky had a baby 2 days ago, and so he is a man among boys jumping on tonight. And I did see, Coach, that you jumped on last night and got kind of confused on the days and jumped on the Zoom last night. And I've been there. I know exactly what you were going through, not knowing what day is what. So I just wanted to give you a shout out and thank you for jumping on.
Appreciate it. The sleep has been very, very few hours, so it screwed that one up. But I'm here. I'm here now.
It's awesome. Thank you for joining.
Simon did say Colgate, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Because Helen, the assistant women's coach, is on the call.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
Hey, Dave.
So before I actually get into the interesting stuff and the actual actionable change stuff, I do have to give a little background of the numbers. I'm going to try to speed by this, but this is super, super important, obviously, to how the algorithm works and how everything's calculated. So the way shot quality works is it's the type of shot multiplied by the percent chance the shot has of going in. So let's just say, for example, I take a heavily contested off the dribble three that has a 25% chance going in. Then the shot quality value on that play would then be 0.75 because it's 3 times 0.25. So getting to that 25% number is the crux of everything. And the way it works is it uses over 90 different variables that are individualized for each player in college basketball. So that is by far the most important part, is the fact that this data is individualized for each player, because different players have different strengths and weaknesses. Somebody could be worse on the left block than right block. Somebody could be better driving left than right. Some people are even better off the dribble mid-range than driving to the basket. So the data is all individualized for each player on those statistics. So these are the stats that go into those calculations. Please jump in if you have any questions. It's honestly better if you guys just jump in or put questions in the chat going through all this, obviously. No worries if not. So I don't see any questions. The one variable I do want to talk about is offensive rebound chance. So this is one of the most important parts of the calculation. So even though we're really looking at shot quality, in reality, it's possession quality, because you could still take a bad shot, but still have a high quality possession if you're so likely to get the offensive rebound. The best personification of this is the North Carolina team last season on the men's side. They led the country in offensive rebound rate. So even when they took a bad shot, it still was almost a high quality possession, such a significant amount of the time, because they just get a putback layup so often. Okay, so that's the background on the numbers. Now I'm going to move on to some of the actionable change stuff.
Can I pause real quick? How do you I imagine that your data feed coming in is everything that is the play-by-play and the box score, and then yes, you have individual numbers, but how is the offensive rebound percentage calculated? Is it if they beat a closeout, then you're assuming there's going to be a help defender, so the offensive rebound chance goes up, or how is it that offensive rebound chance is calculated? If you can just kind of give us like an overview of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's super complicated. Me and Dave, I think, had like 1,000 different conversations about how it should be incorporated into the algorithm. The way just simply offensive rebound percentage was calculated is it's based off the type of shot and then the percent chance. So like North Carolina is going to have a better chance of getting the offensive rebound than like Alcorn State, just because of like the athleticism and based off the historic performance of both of those teams on offensive rebounds throughout the season. So it's based off the type of shot, because obviously a drive to the basket or a block shot is more likely to get an offensive rebound than a three-pointer. So it's those two variables.
So it's basically the team, the makeup of the team and kind of their historical performance and what they're good at, and
Exactly.
the type of shot and the type of shot. It's not necessarily like AI watching the video and
The percent chance.
Right.
No.
Got you.
Now I'm going to go to the actual change stuff. So the first thing you'll see on the website right here, I'm just going to go to Ohio State. The first thing you'll see on the website is 7 stats describing what the team does well or poorly on the court. So this was one of the more used features for coaches last year. I know the Creighton men's team would just screenshot this and put this on their scout to show players, coaches, because it's just a simplified way to get a good understanding of the team you're going up against. That's kind of the goal with shot quality. It's basically to take all the complicated numbers and then simplify it for coaches. So these were the 7 stats that were outputted for Ohio State. If you guys want me to look up any of your teams or anyone else in college basketball, I can do that for sure. Because the variables change for every team. It's not the same.
Yeah, look up North Carolina Central, since I wasn't there last year, so that'll help me this year. Perfect. And also sent your chat so I can get your number.
Hey, Simon, while you're looking at it, Steve Yang here. I know we've kind of talked about it and been through this, but I was going to ask you last time. I failed to ask you, but does the home court advantage have anything to do with it on the road with the quality of shots?
So it's very interesting. I've done a bunch of research on this. I haven't found anything distinctive about actually like making more shots at home versus the road, but I did find one research article that said the referees are 7% more likely to call a foul for the home team, an advantage for the home team than the away team, like through a huge data set. So basically in the algorithm, actually, when somebody drives to the basket, they're 7% more likely to actually draw a foul when they drive at home than away. It's just one little tidbit in there. But good question, Steve.
So what you're telling me right now is a lot of work we have to do.
Simplified, yes, I guess so. And some of the variables aren't necessarily like good or bad things. Like, for example, like quick tempo doesn't necessarily mean you're a good team or a bad team, and high frequency post up doesn't mean you're an inefficient offense or bad offense. But they're just things you should know really for a scout.
High turnover rate does mean you are probably a bad team. 34th, and that's you're gonna have to do some work on.
This too, honestly.
That's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you guys don't want to go to any more teams, we could just go to Ohio State back. So another major feature that coaches used on the website last year was this right here. This is basically a breakdown of the best and worst shots that the Ohio State team got on offense throughout the season. So we'll start with the best. I'll go through these. A lot of catch and shoots, I see. And then I'll also show you the worst. Let's go down to the worst. So I think this is really huge for 2 areas. One, for player development, because, for example, I'm just looking at someone right here, Braxton Miller. She was 55% more efficient when she drove to the basket than when she took a short mid-range or a long mid-range jumper. So that's just one little player development tidbit that will be on the website in a sentence form. And then simple enough for a scout as well, if you're going up against Braxton Miller and you know she's 50% better on the drive to the basket than the short mid-range, then maybe you should play drop coverage against someone like Braxton.
This was a fascinating page when we looked at Washington State. I loved seeing all your players and play types and efficiencies, and some of them jumped out that I wasn't expecting. But this is really, really good. Is there anybody want to use their own team just to kind of check? Any coaches that are on here?
Definitely.
You know, this is a good opportunity to check this out.
Also, what I will say, I should have said this at the beginning. You guys could actually sign up for a 2-day trial and like follow along with me with your team if you'd like as well. While I'm going through it, you just go to if you look up shotquality.com and just go to the sign up page. It should be pretty easy to do. But going back to Matt's question, does anyone want to go through their team?
Could you go Loyola Marymount?
Yep.
Thank you.
This was the 7 stats for you guys last year outputted.
Simon,
Also,
is that when you say bad defense against 3-point shooting, is that percentage?
No,
Or you
it's contest. So this is an interesting one because it's not just like what you're allowing from three. It's actually the contest rate on threes. That's how I'm defining bad defense against 3-point shooting. Because obviously we've had like millions of conversations about this, Dave, about like 3-point shooting, a direct result. Even us last year were first against defensive 3-point percentage last year. And that wasn't a result of really the defense, but just guys missing shots against us. So I'm looking at contest rate for this.
Okay.
Yeah, our head coach would just like to specify that this team was not her doing last year. It's her first season.
I got to update the name then. And then let me go to the all plays for you guys. Let's start with the worst. So this is a jump hook here, just to specify. It doesn't necessarily mean another type of shot on the right block.
Simon, show them the like go up a little bit so they can see. Have you gone over like each game, like the score and how lucky you were?
Yeah, do you want to just go through that, Coach?
Well, eventually, I think that's what is. If we were running order, that was like the next thing, but I wasn't sure if you had already done that when I was.
No, I hadn't done it yet. Do you want to give the example of like how you used that in the past of like why you find it so valuable?
Yeah, I can talk about that. If you go to our page real quick and then you can come back.
Colgate?
Colgate
men's. Okay, that's it.
Go to the Lafayette game 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Oh, I don't have that 3 years ago.
2 years ago then, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially, this is all about process. And for us, we've had some pretty good teams, but Lafayette, this isn't the year that it was, but there was 1 year where Lafayette kind of had our number and beat us twice. And we were like 13-5 and 2 of our losses were to Lafayette. And we played them the first round of the playoffs. And because of the shot quality data that showed that we were supposed to win the game by like 10 points, we didn't really change anything up because our process in those 2 games was great. Like we played just how we were playing all year. We just shot like 4 of 23 from 3, which on the year we shot 40%. So around 40%. So we didn't really game plan too differently than we did the first 2 games, because we kind of looked at process and said, okay, like they beat us, but if we look deeper, we still played a really good game. And that's what got us to be 13-5. We just, in those 2 games, it didn't work out because of, Simon, if you click on like the shot quality result, you can see why it didn't work out.
So this is a bad game to look at for the shot quality result because it was the last game of the season. So obviously there's no actionable thing that could be done after the point that the season's
Yeah,
done.
he happens to show the championship game where we should have won by 5, but we lost by 3. But you can go back to the other team now. I just think this, to me, I love this page so much after, like, in analysis, because like after every game we're like, what was the shot quality? What should the score have been? And then why? And this page right here kind of gives you the idea of like, are we doing things right? Do we need to reinvent the wheel? Or do we just keep going and, reversion of the mean, we'll start making some of those threes that we had that were wide open by good shooters. Let's not panic. We got the shots we wanted, and vice versa. We held them to the shots that we wanted them to take. If this is what it says, sometimes it'll be opposite. And you'll be like, all right, we need to reinvent the wheel. Like our defense actually, like Simon said, last year, we were like top 5 3-point percentage against. But like when you watched, like we were getting so lucky, the shot quality was showing that the teams were just missing against us. So we knew that would come back later in the year to kind of revert to the mean. And it did a little bit, but we didn't have a full season. So I'm a little worried about this year, that getting back to normal.
Let me go back. So another major way that coaches last season utilized the data was actually breaking down the shots taken from the game for each individual player. So I'm just going to use an example for a player on Baylor. So we have a breakdown here in this box score. You can see we have good possessions and bad possessions broken down in the game. So basically what this allows the coaches to do is then go over this with the actual players and tell them, this is when you're getting good shots. This is when you're getting bad shots for our team. So what I found really fascinating was what actually the BYU coach did with this data. He attached this good, bad possession to the film and showed one of his players, Brandon Averett, when Brandon was taking good shots and when he was taking bad shots. After the game 9 point, after he went over this with him, he was 18% more efficient as a player. And obviously showing the players, like me and Dave had multiple conversations, but showing the players like the expected points per possession or even the percentiles might get a little confusing, but something that like good, bad, neutral is very simple and obviously easy to use for the players to really understand and conceptualize when they're taking good and bad shots. So after that point, I think I'm going to move on to some of the new features, which is the pre-game email and the post-game email. Is there anything else on the website that you guys would want to go through before I move on from there? Okay, I'll move on. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is what we would provide you guys for a scout before the game. So the first thing you'll see here is a breakdown of these. So this is just one example scout that we sent to the Baylor team against Texas Tech. And what you'll see is basically, first thing they would want in the scout is the 7 stats describing what you guys as a team do well, what the opponent does poorly, and side by side. It's already on the website. After that, this is a new feature that I think is going to be pretty big. Basically, using all the strengths and weaknesses for both teams, coming up with game goals that give you the best chance to win the game. So obviously these numbers look super simple and like almost easy to conceptualize with players, but the back end data of what's going on here and why we're saying take more than 23 3-point shots against Texas Tech or force at least 11 mid-range jumpers is very, very complex. And I'll show you actually the reason for why we picked these 4 game goals in this game for Baylor. So you can see this here, shoot more than 23 threes. And the reason for that was because could zoom into, I don't know if it's small enough. And then the other one, make more than 8 transition layups. This is really fascinating because Texas Tech had one of the best half-court defenses in the country, but a terrible transition defense. Their half-court defense was 45% better than their transition defense. And then for the defensive goals, we actually specified, so we gave reasons, and then we specified we'd suggest playing drop coverage against these two specific players in ball screens, not against Mac McClung, who's one of the best mid-range shooters in the country. So that's why we said force more than 10 more mid-range shots. But if Micah Peavy and Terrence Shannon are in the ball screens, then you should play drop coverage against them specifically. And then the final one, force more than 7 isolation shots. Another reason here.
And
so we're gonna.
Sorry, Simon. And when is it that this gets sent to the teams in their schedule? Like if they have a game on Friday, when would they get?
We're gonna send the data. We're gonna wait until the game 3 mark to start sending the pregame emails, just because we need a little bit of a sample size to accrue. But what we're gonna do is send it 6 days before the game. 6 days before, and then an updated sample again 2 days before, just so you can have the actual like concrete data if you guys play a game in between. But then 6 days before, just to start preparing the scout, obviously. And then the post game, which I'll go through next, the post game email, you'll get that 4 to 12 hours after the game, so pretty soon. And this is just like the specific granular version of those sentences up top. So obviously you could get the strengths and weaknesses using what I showed you above, but this is just a very specific version of that. And then also for the scout, the best and worst plays for both teams side by side. And then what we also recently added to the scout, it's, let me just share my screen, is these player cards here. So for each player that you guys are going up against, we're going to give you some information on each of them, where their best zones are, where their best shot types are, all in sentence form. So basically for this one player in SMU, when they took a jump hook, it was X% better than their guarded 3. Let's see some more examples here. I think one of the more fascinating examples with these player cards, we're going to send a bunch of them with like pick and roll coverages and all. I think the first one was pick and roll. Where is it? Yeah, this one. This one's very fascinating. So Kendrick Davis was 51% better pulling up from mid-range than driving to the basket. That's obviously very antithetical to what you'd expect for a typical analytical website, because you would think, oh, mid-range is bad. Oh, play drop coverage because mid-range is bad. But when Kendrick Davis is in a ball screen, you do not want to play drop coverage because obviously he's an incredible mid-range shooter. And similar to these cards, I didn't see it for this game, but this is going to be another big card that I got asked from for a bunch of coaches to add to the website, is for guarding more point guards, what % of the time they drive in each direction and how much more efficient they are when they drive in each direction. So this is just an example with Jared Butler, who was 22% better driving left than right.
I have a quick question, Simon. Where are you getting, because I know like traditional play-by-play data doesn't necessarily have all of this information. So what play-by-play data are you drawing from to get all of this information?
Absolutely, yeah, we're getting it from 3 different data sources. So from ESPN, NCAA Live Stats, and Synergy, and when they're all combined, it's a really, really good barometer of shot quality and all these different stats that I'm breaking down, obviously.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Of course. Now I'm going to move on to the post-game email. But just one more thing I want to highlight with this drive left versus right, we're also going to have that for post-ups as well. So let's just say you guys are scouting for somebody who posts up a lot, and you want to know what % of the time their post-ups on the left block versus right block and how much better they are on the left versus right. Let's say the player's 30% better on the left block. Maybe you should double team her when she gets on that side compared to the right side, stuff like that. Now I'll move to the post game. So after the game, what we'll send you is what Coach Klatsky was going through. Based off the quality of shots you guys got in the game, what % of the time you would have won. So Baylor won the game and was expected to win the game. And they did achieve all of the winning metrics in the game as well. What I've been telling people recently is if you guys keep achieving the winning metrics and keep losing, I'll refund you your money back, because clearly something's wrong in my system compared to you guys. So they achieved all 4. And then lineup data. So this is brand new on the website. And I kind of just scratching the surface of what it could really be with shot quality. But I think it's super, super fascinating because shot quality works so well in a small sample, and all lineup combinations are a small sample. Let's just say you had a lineup where your best catch and shoot shooter missed 7 wide open threes. And on the defensive side, you guys forced 7 contested long mid-range, and the opponent made all 7, and your catch and shoot shooter missed all 7. Now that lineup is minus 14. But in reality, it was probably your best lineup in the game because they got great shots and they forced tough shots. So that's what we would tell you after the game, is basically which lineup is getting the best shots on offense and forcing the toughest shots on defense. And it kind of is like the my goal with this, with the shot quality, with the lineup data, is really to show how dumb plus minus is and how it is so not indicative of actual gameplay. So we'll have a little example like this. So this lineup right here was +5, but based off the shots they got and the shots they forced, they were expected to be -3. So pretty significant difference, obviously. And that obviously can have an impact on, like, if you saw the lineup and you saw that they were +5, maybe you end up playing them more next game. But in reality, the lineup didn't really play that well. So that's definitely something you should want to know for the next game, obviously. And then that luck report that Coach Kotsky showed as well. So that's pretty much the full breakdown of everything. Do you guys have any questions on anything?
That's fascinating.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Hey, Simon. This is Martin Pazanin with Loyola Marymount. Yeah, I had a few questions for sure. So first, just in terms of knowing what is the shot quality for each individual player,
yep.
How do you do that? Like at the beginning or towards the beginning of the year when they don't have, very many opportunities?
Yeah, great question. So if they have previous data, so let's just say they've played 2 seasons or they played 1 season, we're going to use some of that data. But if they're a freshman, then it's a significant difference. So if they're a freshman, the way the data works is they will start right below average as a below average player, and then we'll incrementally adjust as they get more shot types. So let's say you have a freshman who hits their first 7 threes to start the season. You go to ESPN, you'll see she's 100% 3-point shooter. On shot quality, she'd probably be expected to be 37, 38, because it doesn't just skyrocket. It has to have a big sample to really understand what she'll do in the future. So it takes time for obviously the numbers to jump up on those freshmen.
Cool, thanks. Do we actually, so at Loyola Marymount, we've just kind of created like a very simple shot profile for our team. And so we will chart it after each practice right now and give them some feedback the next morning at practice. But I was just sort of thinking, would it be best to do that? Right now we're doing it like on a day-by-day basis. Is that something you think we should be doing? Like, is it better to give like weekly progress to the kids, or is daily progress the best way to go about doing that?
I actually would rather hear Dave answer that question, because that's something Dave, you handle that one.
Yeah, so we do the same thing. We do shot quality for every 5-on-5 drill that's not an advantage drill, and keep track of every shot that's taken, and basically do it. I wish I could automate for practices. I've been trying to get them to do that too, but the AI will be here soon, probably within what do you think, 2 years, Simon, that we'll be able to just like a camera can do it for us and then use your
That'd
product,
be the goal,
which is gonna be awesome. But I don't think daily matters too much, because I don't know how many like 5-on-5 drills you're doing, but like there's days where some people will have like 8 shots in a practice, and whether you had 6 good ones or I think for you as a coach, it's good to see how you practiced. And maybe it is good for the kids if you go over with them every day to be like, you got really good shots today, you didn't. But like, to me, you need numbers. So you need probably 4 to 5 practices of numbers to kind of have an idea of who's getting good shots and who's not. And those numbers then have a little bit more substance to them. I will say though, I've been doing this for 4 years. 4 years now. And the numbers that we have in practice, they're pretty correlated to how people do in games. So it does kind of carry over if you're only doing 5-on-5 no advantage drills. What I mean by no advantage drills is like, I'm sure you guys all do, maybe like a 5-on-3 with 2 trailers or something like that, or 5-on, just a straight 5-on-4. We do a 5-on-4 shell so we won't count your stats in that because it's not as pure, it's not as true, even though those matter, right? Like making a shot in anything is important, but we just do the 5-on-5 competitive drills to stat the shot quality.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. And yeah, Simon, just one last question. I'm just sort of assuming, so like when you can go by play, and so they have a rating, their SQ rating, if it's a good shot or not a good shot, that is in no way like connected to video, is it?
So it's not, but it is very easy to combine it because the timestamps actually match up with synergy. So I don't know if you heard that example I was giving with the BYU coach with Brandon Averett. He was able to attach it to the video because the timestamps lined up. So he put like the good possession, bad possession for Brandon, and it was pretty easy to do. But we don't have video directly on the website, but hopefully it should be easy enough.
And Simon, I know there was in your podcast with Chris Oliver, I know you talked a little bit about different offenses and different actions. Have you done any like correlation with shot quality to actions or different offenses, dribble drive or Princeton or anything like that?
Yes, I actually have something for that as well. So this is going to look super complicated. I wasn't sure if I should show this. This is what the Texas coach did with our data last year, basically breaking down the shot quality on each set. I thought this was one of the most fascinating ways to utilize shot quality because with play sets, you're not running it a significant amount of time. And if you're just using points per possession, you're not going to get a good accurate, precise number on how indicative that set was efficient, good or bad shot. But with shot quality, pretty well. So for example, in this game, the specials, you can see that they got 2 points per possession, but the expected was only 1.06. There's a few other sets as well. So Coach Smart would basically look at this and then make adjustments for his play sets afterwards because he's realizing, okay, I realized Matt Coleman hit 2 contested long mid-range, but in reality, those weren't great shots. Our better shots was when Kai Jones had 2 wide open catch and shoot threes. And that would be the way he would choose the set card rather than just the result. So that's kind of the way. And this is obviously just game by game, Matt, but could be aggregated throughout the season. Like the creating team aggregated our data throughout the season, looking at the sets from a shot quality perspective.
Yeah, I think this would be super helpful. This is awesome.
I could show you guys how they did it just really quick. How the Texas team did this.
Well, while he's bringing that up, I wanted to touch on something Martin just asked about the freshmen coming in. I think one of the coolest things that Simon was able to do that like took this to the next level was the algo learns from itself. So like he talked about how freshmen come in at a baseline and then however they start doing it moves slowly towards what they are. But that works for everything. He does that for offensive rebounding. So if you come in and you are a bad offensive rebounding team, and that's what he has you labeled as, the algo learns over time that you maybe this year are a really good offensive rebounding team. So it changes each game and each every time it learns new data, it kind of takes another step towards being more accurate. And it's that includes everything, right, Simon? All 90 of those variables kind of change as the season goes based on how you're doing that particular year, but not not discounting the weight from previous years, like who you are as a program. Is that accurate?
Yep, that is accurate. Exactly.
Right.
Thanks, Dave. Can you guys see my screen right now? Is it shared?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So basically after every game, we'll send you the link to the game. You go to the bottom and you see the play-by-play here. You basically just turn it into a spreadsheet with this button right here. Pops up. And then what the Texas team did, because you have access to the back end data now, you could just add in your sets called. So once you're watching the film, you can add in any set that you want to add in, just as simple as you want, obviously, or as complicated as you want. Horns, and it obviously could be very specific as well. It just depends on how you want to aggregate it at the end.
That's super. How many different teams did that? Do you know, Simon?
So last year, Texas and Creighton were the only two that I know of that did that. But now that I've like shared it with all the coaches that did it last year,
they all want to
use it last year. Now they're all going to do it. And tomorrow, I actually have another Zoom with all the coaches who signed up last year. And Devin, so he was the offensive analyst for Texas, he's going to be explaining how he did it. The BYU coach is going to be explaining what he did with Brandon. And we're just going to be going through the same thing. Rather than me saying it, obviously they'll be saying it as well. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Any other questions, guys?
So Simon, just going back to my question about how you're pulling the data. And so you mentioned Synergy. And so I know that Synergy's data it's obviously great, but it's human error added into it. Is that something that you guys just, it's Synergy, they're just like, that's just the way it is. Like it's human error sometimes. So do you guys kind of correct for any of that? Or is that, you just working with what you got kind of?
So because we have these other data sources as well, it just enhances it. So it's not like it's just Synergy's miscues, because you have all these other data sets basically combining together and outputting this valuable information. So I think it's fine. Like obviously, like there may be like a few mistakes like every game or so, but it's over the long run, the data is going to be very, very strong because we're using and pulling from so many different sources. If that makes sense.
For sure. And second question, would you be interested in getting into WNBA data as well?
Yes. So I was supposed to do that this summer. Actually, that was one of my goals because WNBA I don't believe has second spectrum. So that was one of my goals.
No, we did not.
So that was one of my goals to do that this summer, and I just got so overwhelmed with putting a pregame email, postgame email, and all this other stuff that's new on the website that I kind of put on the back burner. But I am definitely very interested in getting that going, probably for the next WNBA season, because I know it just concluded. So for sure.
All right, well, let's talk this off season then.
Appreciate it, Sam.
Do the NBA guys use shot quality, the teams?
So they don't, because they actually have hardware installed to their court with this product called Second Spectrum, which is very, very expensive product because it's like hardware installed. So they don't use it, but what they have used it for actually, and I've talked to a few NBA teams about it, is for evaluating draft prospects. Okay. Because I have all this data on the draft prospects, the quality of shots they're getting, they're utilizing that to then figure out who they want to draft, obviously.
The NBA teams all use the information the same. So like at the end of the game, there's like a printout of your shot quality and all the stuff that Simon is doing for college. And it's slightly more accurate because it's based on like a video. It's so awesome, but it's just not in college gyms yet. And it probably will be. And Simon is going to incorporate his stuff into that because his algo is kind of a little bit more advanced actually than some of the stuff Second Spectrum does, but they use the same information. They just get it a different way. Mm-hmm. So that's the best way to put it, I think.
We just had a shot tracker installed. You're probably familiar with them. And they have, it's not as advanced as Second Spectrum, but they have chips on players and chip the ball. And you'll have a grid of everybody's position, offense and defense. And, you know, that's someone you could have a really good partnership with potentially, you know, because they're trying to make inroads, and I think they've got I think we're the third Pac-12 team. So they're really pushing for, I know they have Michigan State, and they're trying to get into these big conferences and make it conference wide. But they're kind of on the cusp, you know what I mean? They're like just almost there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very interesting. I know a lot about their company. It is very fascinating.
Yeah, but they're hungry, and this could be a good partnership.
Definitely.
For you to
that is really good idea.
The data that you would get from that, I mean, that'd be like another couple years worth of work to get all that. I mean, goodness gracious. But anyways, we can talk more offline about that. But coaches, any other questions for? Oh, I had the other thing I wanted to touch on, Simon. You have some metrics dealing with spacing and gravity. Can you just talk a little bit about those? I know we haven't really talked about those tonight.
Definitely, yeah. So actually on the website starting tomorrow, what you'll see is every team is going to have a rank of 3 different major stats: spacing, shot selection, and shot making. And what you'll be able to see, because shot quality is kind of an incorporation of all of them, but what I'm trying to do is separate it out so you can really see what type of shots you're getting. You guys just have incredible shot makers, and how's your spacing on offense. So specifically spacing I'll go through, Matt, it's a breakdown. It incorporates the weight of a bunch of different stats. But the way it works is it's using how frequently you take catch and shoot threes, how efficient you are on them, how frequently you take off the dribble threes, how efficient you are on them, how frequently you run to the rim, because that creates vertical spacing. The teams that led in college men's last year was Baylor, Oral Roberts, and San Francisco. Baylor, I find it so funny that they were 1 in spacing and then 1 in the tournament. And then on the women's side, I believe Virginia Tech was 1.
Really cool. And then did you have, I think we talked about it in our last conversation, did you have some kind of metric for gravity, like, you know, like when you have a really great shooter and how they, you know, their defender can't get too far away from them? Did you have some kind of
Exactly. So that's applied to the player level as well. So like, I remember the Furman team was telling me for their scout, they would use that for like, and like show the players, this is how hard you should close on them, because this is how much gravity they actually necessitate on the floor to close out. So that's kind of the same calculation. Exactly.
Gotcha. Coaches, any other questions for Simon? We got him up like past, gosh, it's got to be 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning.
It's 4:10 now. Yeah, 4:10.
You look wide awake. You must have drank 3 Red Bulls.
I had 1 large Red Bull, but I'm good to go now.
Well, thanks again, Simon. That was really fascinating, and good luck with your company.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna drop my number in the chat if anyone wants to reach out.
I think some people wanted it too.
And Simon, like I said, this is being recorded, and I'm going to send it out to all the coaches on the Growth Mindset list, and so will Colleen. And I'll send this video to you, and feel free to use this and pass it on and use it as promotional material. But I just want to thank you for coming on tonight and really for pushing the game forward. You know, like the work that you're doing, you know, it's so essential to moving our game, our men's game, college, our women's college game, and just progressing forward. And it's really awesome. And thank you again. I know it's a lot of hard work, and man, I can't even imagine the hours and upon thousands of hours that not only you and Dave have, you know, chopped it up, coming up with all this stuff, but then the back end stuff that you've done. I mean, it's quite an accomplishment, and you should be very proud, and thank you.
Simon, what's your major?
It was statistics and psychology. I shouldn't say was, because I still do need to finish school.
Okay, I'm just curious with all your
Uh,
math stuff. It's like, wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I will say too, if anybody has any, if you want to talk from like a coach's perspective, I know me and Simon, I'm like, you're the brains, but like coaches think differently than you do. Feel free to hit me up. And I'd actually be curious, Simon, after coaches use this, I think one of the hardest thing about coaching is how do we get this across to our players? How do we, without throwing them like, oh, that's a 1.4, that's a 1.5. So I always love hearing other coaches talk about how you talk about shot selection when now that you have the numbers, what's good, what's bad. How do you then relay that to your players without making them think? Because you don't want them to think. So if anybody does use this product or is as obsessed with shot selection as I am, feel free to hit me up and we can talk further.
Yeah, if this wasn't clear already, like this obviously wouldn't be possible without Dave. Like he built the entire Excel file like that, like shot quality was built off originally, and obviously he came on this group, I guess, a year ago now. So
Yeah. Well, thanks, you guys. Simon, we'll let you go get some rest. And coach, anybody that wants to hang out and chit chat and catch up is welcome to stay on. I know Colleen and I haven't really chatted too much with some of the members here, so feel free to cut out. Simon, thank you again. Appreciate it. And we'll be in touch, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you make inroads in the women's game. You got an awesome product.
thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks.
See ya.
again,
Thank you,
Simon.
guys. Of course.
Thank you, Simon. Appreciate you.
Sweet dreams,
Thanks,
Simon.
Simon.
Sweet.